Hi, this is James, and for today's video, I'm talking about music discovery, and I want to talk about YouTube as a platform first because I think it's important. What I want to say is that I think music videos, the way music videos have transformed in meaning and purpose over time has been so beneficial in a way to which that's, to me, the main mode of discovery that I'm seeing. I see a lot of discovery of that because it's something clippable and it's something that feeds will promote. Now, that being said, I also think there's obviously harms to this. I don't think people discover music through playlists the same way people used to. What we've seen, like in terms of general trends, is that people will listen to one song from a playlist but not go to the artist that they like the one song from. There's not that much of a translation. It looks good on Spotify numbers, but Spotify no longer is like the leading music service in the US. Apple Music now is. And if you look at the way Apple Music promotes music, which I've talked about many times before, it promotes bigger artists, big labels. It's designed for that, which is even by itself not inherently bad. I mean, it's like what radio used to be. Radio used to be very much like that. It was only, like pirate radio that you got like actually like niche underground or like hyper local stations. When it comes to the music videos that succeed on YouTube, this is what I find so fascinating, is that you will find so many goofy videos succeed. It is so to the benefit of the artist to make things unclear how serious you are, what degree of serious. And I've talked about this in one of my Substack essays. I hate plugging one of my own things in one of my own videos. It feels gross. Finding a degree of playfulness and seriousness is so vital to finding success as an artist. It's only something I've recently really started to grapple with in a certain type of way, and it's led to a great improvement in what I make. I mean, the new stuff I'm making, it has a level of playfulness that I don't think some of my past stuff had. And it's important to remember, like, quality is not the indicator, right? There's always been this like theory that's like online, it's the cream of the crop that rises up. Maybe that was true for like the MySpace and blog era. That is no longer the case. And it hasn't been for a while, because I mean, who thinks that the most viral thing is the best quality thing? I don't think anyone believes that. And especially now, given the lack of seriousness that so many artists have. I mean, there was a video I was watching yesterday where this guy was rapping about like salad and he was wearing John Pork shorts. There was a real community behind it. Or even when you look like what's that guy, like Liam McKay, I think that's his name, but like he has like a bunch of different aliases. He does very well, and there's sort of sometimes a blend of what's serious or not. A lot of things are the visuals that don't match the song itself. I mean, Four Bats, shout out Dallas, that is the perfect example. That was the biggest song that's ever utilized that strategy, and it still works today. I think it doesn't work in the same way. People assume that if you give the artist a ton of money that rely on that it'll pay off. Again, Four Bats, it doesn't pay off, because once the gimmick is familiar, people don't like it. Even like the Doobis Goot Gnu guy, like that new like sort of meme, whatever a modern day sort of meme rotted thing is, he's now getting like a remix of the song with I think Skepta and like appearing on a Plaque Max stream. And like if you were to tell someone like, oh yeah, Plaque Max is gonna have Doobis Goot Gnu on, like it doesn't make sense. Like it's not something that makes sense, given like this is the same guy that has like Fred Again or Jim Legacy on. And another thing is that people don't like the predictable artist anymore. That is not a thing that works. I saw a video today, actually. I felt bad for it. It had like 400 views at most, and this guy was doing like a blue and black filter. It looked like, you know what it honestly looked like? It looked like the Travis Scott apology for Astroworld Instagram video, but the guy was very clearly copying Peggy and Kanye, and the comments were letting him know in a way that was so direct. And sometimes I think like, oh, I've experienced hate, because I occasionally get like a hate comment or like whatever it is. I forget, like, no, actually, being original kind of makes you immune from a lot of hate, because people don't have a basis for it. And like, this is going to sound arrogant because I'm referring to myself as original musically, but I do think relative to some people, it's like, man, some people just copy people. And like, I don't have inherently the same issue with that at an underground level, because I don't think it's like harmful as long as you're not like replacing the originators. So like, I used to love AG Club a lot, and now looking at the way it's all solo and they're just now starting to be a lot more original, but for a long time it was clear they wanted to be very Odd Future-y and Brockhampton, more Brockhampton to be honest. And Brockhampton itself, like, you can see how they suffered from kind of like becoming less original over time, and only in like solo careers have they really like benefited. And obviously Brockhampton's over, but when you look at the later albums, it's not like those were doing the same streams that Ginger was. So yeah, being predictable doesn't work for music anymore. However, with music videos, there's a lot of predictable music videos. If I see another Y2K sleaze, pop, indie sleaze, whatever, pastiche, it's driving me insane, because it was really cool like 2 years ago, and like 2 years isn't that long of a time, but the problem is that it's like, not only did every artist do the indie sleaze thing, it was done better by an elite few, and not only that, but much of the modern indie sleaze revival stuff is not even based around that. And then to talk about a topic that Charli XCX like tweeted about, and a bunch of people made fun of her, and I don't really blame them. If you've read Charli XCX's Substack, I mean, you know that she's a very talented artist, and I do think she seems to be an intelligent person, but she's not the most original person in her cultural analysis. And I don't pretend to be original entirely, but I also don't make the same grandiose statements as though I'm discovering certain things. And it is true, though, that anti-marketing is this modern wave. It's not something that is coming, it just is the current. And people don't like the same explicit advertisements unless it's the whole like semi-ironic thing. But what people don't get is that it's like, not only are like the ironic things, it's also things that are obvious collaboration. It's weird how much, if you look at artists, or especially in stand-up, you see it the most in stand-up, is the podcast bracket to promote a show or special or album. It's gotten insane. You don't need 4 hours of podcasting a day from certain people on 4 different shows where they're just rehashing the exact same stories. It's insane. It's insane. And I like, it's fun for like the one podcast you end up watching of it, if you watch a podcast or listen, but then it hits you like, oh, they're just talking about the same thing each time. And then you end up just ignoring all of it. And it honestly makes you kind of respect the person less. And I kind of get it, because short form content isn't rewarding in the same way it used to be. I mean, how many people do you like follow on Instagram or TikTok that make music that you actually listen to that frequently? A lot of times when you first followed them, you listen to a few songs and you were like, oh, this is cool. And then it's like, no longer do you listen. I had that with an artist, Chris Casey. I thought he was doing a cool sound, and I listened to him for about 2 weeks. And I don't mean that in any way to like seem like I'm hating on him. It's legitimately just like, I don't feel a compelling need, because I've heard stuff that personally I would rather listen to right now more. So labels right now, like, if you look at who they're signing, it's a lot of people who do well on social media mixed with people who almost have no social media presence at all. Like, it's odd to me, but like, in a way, you're seeing a lot more like ambient and classical stuff do well, kind of due to the fact that it's almost like the antithesis of everything else. And when it comes to like marketing, going back to music videos and why they succeed on YouTube so well, video accompaniment is so important due to the fact that multimedia is like the only way people are captivating fans right now. It's not ideal, but attention spans are such that people want a constant stream of information to them. And it's really due to the fact that people want a world to discover, not just aesthetic, but like actual like a world to immerse themselves in. If you go viral, you need a catalog of music for people to already listen to and videos for them to watch. It's crazy, but like past live streams and story posts now are chronicled in a way that like TV interviews and magazine interviews used to be for artists. Well, and especially now that people are competing with music from all eras, it's even more important to have your own world that people can explore, because there's so many other, decades long careers that they can explore and get into in a more meaningful way. So what is the sort of ideal music discovery and form that can come from this? And I would say this, like, for artists, I'm saying this as someone who struggles with marketing their own work, but the self-aware marketing thing is gimmicky, and I think it's bad even if it works. Even if it works, it's going to age poorly. It's not going to lead to long-term careers that are meaningful, because it's going to be based in this sort of almost embarrassment of the work. And I also think artists need to take accountability in this way. Like, I don't normally ever want to blame artists for anything. However, eventually artists have to take accountability for like, look, if you have, if you're signed with a label that is making you do mandatory TikToks, sure, divulge that they're mandatory, or be like, I have to do this to make money, or whatever it is. Be honest with your audience. I doubt there's a stipulation in these contracts that say you have to lie to your audience, or if there is, don't sign the deal. I don't get why the notion of like independence, even while with a label, is like viewed as impossible, when it kind of seems like there are some artists that are able to do that. Not everything has to be an advertisement. You don't have to take every endorsement deal. And especially when you look at like how some artists find loopholes in order to release music outside of their strict label contract. If you have something you want to release, but like, oh, there's like a time frame you have to follow, go under a pseudonym. Now more than ever, you can use your social media and promote it, or even just allude to the fact that it's you. Just have it under a different artist name. If it's truly about the work that these like artists are presenting it as, there's plenty of methods to release it, and it markets itself. And especially given the way Discovery is now, I feel like people really enjoy seeing something that's almost unexpected. Again, I talked about that like Liam McKay guy. He has so many different aliases. And when it comes to radio, it's difficult to break into like Sirius XM or certain major FM radio stations without a label, right? Because it's a lot of pitching. Knowing how to get your stuff sync licensed for, anything really is something that isn't like, clearly explained to every artist when they first release something. So the options are, if you're independent, is either you figure it out yourself and you're the one pitching it, or you have a manager or something that pitches to stations, or you just go the label route if you're not independent. However, I think it should be clear that like SiriusXM does, I think, actually do a decent job of platforming some smaller artists. I don't really have like a real issue with Sirius. In fact, I actually like have heard of many instances of smaller artists really benefiting from getting played on Sirius. That being said, I don't get why Sirius is somehow a better platform for promoting new artists than a lot of conventional radio. I mean, like college radio is a great way to get like smaller artists exposure. However, even when you look at like a lot of college radio and the way it functions, or independent radio stations, they really struggle with not promoting stuff that's very similar, in the sense of the DJ has a specific taste, and it's usually in alignment with an online like rate your music sort of slop. And it's all music that's usually not bad, and there's like an artistic thing, but it's very referential, and it's usually stuff that it's like it's very much a fad. And it's based on like listening trends. I mean, I always think about it where it's like they were onto the indie sleaze stuff 2 years ago, and now it's like you turn on indie radio and they're back into New Order and dance music, which is great. I mean, I like that stuff. At the same time, it's very much a trend thing, is because that's like convenient to like online right now. And they're not immune to gimmicks. A lot, like when you go back and look at a lot of like the hipster millennial music, that stuff was getting promoted on every platform to a ridiculous extent because it was convenient at the time. And now everyone looks back at some of that music, like there's a really like kind of infamous in a way KEXP performance between like I think they're called Monsters and Men. I only say it's infamous because in some communities it's viewed as great, but in others it's viewed as like, oh, this is really corny. And I think the fact that it's even divided in this way, it's not just a generational gap, it's the fact that it's like this sort of like faux folk movement that wasn't really based in anything. It was very, very like, is in the same way that like hippie music didn't age the best, in the sense of like, yeah, like stuff that was leaning into that. Take, maybe some of the more psychedelic records of the early 70s were there's many great ones. However, like some of the very hippie centric stuff didn't age well because the movement itself didn't age well. Another thing is that the goofy stuff on YouTube that gets promoted is good. Like there's a lot of good stuff. I think a lot of artists actually get discovered this way. They're good. And when I say that, I mean, yeah, not just like a joke song, but take something like a BLP Kosher or a Babytron, or even in some ways Xavier So Based kind of got this treatment. The debate was whether or not to take them serious. I think you can really easily delineate through the scenes that those bring up who the quality people are. And you can really find that really easily. Again, Xavier So Based, if you look at the whole Jerk scene, he was really the one that stood out. Him and Suvi, who have a bunch of tracks together, they are distinctly the best of that scene in my opinion, and they are also the ones with the most success, and they just stuck together. And what I'd say to the consumer is that like, keep refreshing the homepage and get good videos on your feed. It's easy to do, and you will discover so many artists. And it seems ridiculous, but like the difference between 100 views and 400 views in like an artist's life and the way they view their own music is pretty significant. And especially the difference between 400 views and a few thousand. I mean, truly, it's like once you hit a certain level, you get promoted more. You can help an artist by not paying them, just by like helping them out in the algorithm, leaving likes, leaving a comment. It truly does make a difference. And I really want to say this genuinely. I know it's selfish because I'm an artist. There are recognizable things that you can say, look, even if they aren't there yet, they're on their way. And it's like when you recognize someone's doing something original, which it's been displayed as what people are looking for, leave that a like. Someone's giving an earnest attempt at something. That's worthy of attention. So I'd say for like finding new stuff, radio is great. However, under the stipulation that you understand that they are not immune to gimmicks, finding stuff yourself and just deliberating yourself on what's quality and what's not, and using less of like playlists and the algorithms unless you actually explore those artists. But just keep in mind, they're usually getting promoted for a reason. Thank you for watching. Check out my music if you haven't heard it. It's I Only Know What the People Before Me Said by James Coe, and I have some new singles coming out sometime. Thanks.